Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co, and this is To Back or Not to Back. We're going to be diving into a bunch of crowdfunding campaigns, although actually it's not really that many crowdfunding campaigns. It is a lighter week. I don't know what will be next week. We'll see, we'll find out, but let's go ahead and start this off. We have a few updates, we have a few board game adjacents, a few campaigns not funding, and then a bunch of campaigns to actually go over, but starting off, as always, with Cult of the Now. Cult of the Now is where we take a look at an older game, a game that's not entirely true, a game that's currently available, a game that's not on crowdfunding, a game that you can buy now, whether new or old, basically a conversation to remind you of the fact that board games can be expensive, they can be cheap, they can be on crowdfunding, they can be in retail. There are a bunch of options to get them, but despite this crowdfunding segment that we do every single week over here, or most weeks over here, nonetheless, there are many games available at retail, and you can check out reviews for those games now, and you can buy them now and get them now, and often at cheaper price points. And Sabic, I think it's Sabica, I don't actually know which way to pronounce that over there. This one's over at Miniature Market for $48 for this one. Currently at like an 8.0 over on Board Game Geek, so currently solid ratings, still newer, so take that into account as you go through this. Supposedly has a good solo mode as well. I actually have it on my shelf. I plan on diving into it soon, but this is Sabica or Sabica, one of those two, over on Miniature Market as our Cult of the Now pick for our Cult of the Now pick. But with that, let's go ahead and start this off with board game adjacent, with the Quezzle Space Adventures puzzle board game. And if you're like, didn't we cover that last week? No, last week we covered the Vizzles. This is the Quezzle. A very easy mistake to make over there because of the Quezzle, Vizzles, puzzles, board games. This is a kind of a puzzle board game, escape room slash a story kind of situation. This one's more expensive than the Vizzle, but it's giving you more of an experience in the game itself. The game's going to run you about $40, no, that's for the mini games, $140 for the early bird for this Quezzle Adventure puzzle situation going on. That's what it is. It's a quest and a puzzle and a bunch of stuff together. Again, board game adjacent. Check it out if you want to. Definitely not cheap, but also, you know, could be a fun, cool experience if that's something that you're interested in. From there, we move into the not funding category where we have two over here. We have Alynthia, 179 backers, $10,000 out of a $21,000 goal. This one may not fund, currently being halfway through with this long into the campaign. Could go either way. Could well fund, also could well not. Alynthia is a cooperative and competitive game of 1 to 5 players building their kingdom and overcoming relentless swarms of dragons. Which all sounds great, but unfortunately it's not pulling in quite as much of an audience as it needs to. So that's currently Alynthia is struggling to fund. We'll see what happens with it. And then we also have the Adventures of Dixon in the board game. Same kind of conversation over here. 93 backers and $10,000 raised on a $45,000 goal. It's unlikely to happen, unfortunately. You're likely looking at a relaunch or some sort of situation. I'm just assuming based on funding goals and where we are right now. 27 days to go on the Adventure of Dixon. I actually covered this game. You can check that out. This is basically it's effectively a skirmish game. It's a skirmish game where you're going to have your characters. You're going to be buffing up your characters with a variety of artifacts and equipment and events and all these different things as you try to get powers and basically build yourself up as you play as various sides in this game. It's got a solid skirmish feel, kind of, you know, somewhere between more complicated than Talisman, less complicated than a, you know, giant skirmish Tenaris Adventures kind of situation. This is Dixon. Again, currently not funding. We'll see how it goes, but that's going to be Adventures of Dixon. Which brings us to the updates category. There are a few updates to go over here. The first and the largest one is going to be the Marvel United Multiverse. I did a full video on this yesterday. You can check that out if you want to see that. Of course, because I did a full video yesterday, they immediately dropped an update the same day, so there's another thing to add to that. And then because I'm doing this video today, you can expect to see the All-In or some other update drop today. That's usually the way it works. I try to do these videos, and CMON's like, nope, we're just going to move faster than you and have those campaign details up so your videos are never, ever accurate, and people just can't trust that Board Game Co guy. Fair. Well played, CMON. Well played. But that said, we have Marvel United Multiverse, $2.8 million raised, 14,000 backers, 68 hours to go. This is bringing you a whole bunch of Marvel United Multiverse content. Again, I'm not heavily going to go into this because I did a full 25-minute video on it yesterday. What I will talk about is the fact that we have two things that are worth talking about. The first is we have a new optional buy, which we're totally going to talk about because they're the pet companions. We have a Hero's Best Friends. This optional buy for $20 was dropped. Oh, I also have an update to yesterday's video too. I'll do that too. We have the pet companions over here. For $20, we have the Pet Companions, 6 companion pieces, 21 companion cards. This is going to be bringing you 6 companions to the Marvel United Multiverse. Throg, Cosmo, Redwing, Alligator Loki, Jeff, and Goose as a Kickstarter pack. Very cool, very fun, very charming. You probably don't need it, but add it to the list of many other things you don't need here. But it ups the price to like a $445 for the all-in, at least as of now, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's what we're currently up to. It's not cheap. There's lots of stuff to buy over here. They are adorable. They give you fun little companions. You still don't need them. They're just cute and adorable. And the second update I want to talk about is the fact that I did mention yesterday, let's scroll down, one of the things I did in yesterday's video as I went through the campaign, I talked about everything it's up to. Again, ending shortly, so this is the last thing to really go over. They'll have their all-in drop. I can't really give you that much guidance in it other than to say they're going to give you a small discount for going all in, and If that's enough to push you over the fence, then great, and if not, then save your money and pick the specific things you want. And on that note, on yesterday's video, what I did is I went over the specific recommendations that I have as far as things that I think are the most likely to give you a solid gaming experience in Marvel United Multiverse. Like getting a core pledge, and the specific expansions I recommended, as I scroll through page after page, is I recommended, here we go, from these expansions over here, from these add-ons, the ones I recommended the most, in rough order, is I recommended the campaign decks the most. I'm going to give an asterisk there, and I'll explain what the campaign decks are shortly. I recommended Civil War as my third most solid expansion over there, completely mixing up the gameplay to bring a head-to-head experience, which might be something that's good for you. For me, I think it's not the spirit of what Marvel United Multiverse is, so I respect and want the gameplay changes, while also thinking it's not going to be the ideal way to play Marvel United Multiverse. And then I recommended the second most as Maximum Carnage, as a game that I think that, especially if you have the original Sinister Six, I think Maximum Carnage will give you a lot of ways to have a different game mode with a lot of variety built into the game mode. Again, I went fully into this in yesterday's video, you can check that out. The update part I want to kind of give, the addendum I want to give, is the expansion I recommended the most is actually the campaign decks over here. The campaign decks that will give you a bunch of ways to experience your Marvel United content in fun iterative adventures similar to the way Infinity Gauntlet did. The problem is, I forgot to point out, is people correctly pointed out in the comments, that you have to have a decent amount of the content for this. While the campaign deck to me is the expansion I would recommend the most, it does come with the caveat that it kind of depends on you having a lot of the content already, so it's going to give you a tremendous bang for your buck, but if you are walking in without having previous content, then it may be a bit of a miss. So that's a fair point that I should have said in yesterday's video. I still think the campaign decks are really cool. It's just, you won't necessarily get the full value from them unless you have a bunch of the content. And that's what we have as far as Marvel United Multiverse. A ton of stuff, a ton of ways to spend money. You don't need most of it. It's a fun game system. I really enjoy it. I really recommend it, but with a bunch of caveats, especially considering the cost to the game weight and just the variety of content that isn't always variety of content. By the time you have, you know, the 70 bajillion heroes they give you, they all kind of blur into a hot mess, and it's really just about collecting the extra miniatures. It's not about the actual gameplay changes. It's just about the need to want everything. And I don't say that critically, I'm in the same boat. With that, let's go ahead to the next update over here. That's going to be Batman Escape from Arkham Asylum from Night Games. This one's ending very shortly over on GameFound, so this one's going to be wrapping up very shortly. And we have over here, the reason I'm talking about today is just two small updates. First of all, they currently have a playable tabletop simulator demo, so they added that in case you are interested in trying out the game, or in case you're even interested in hopping over to Board Game Geek or finding people who did try out the game. If you want to get people's feedback instead of just, you know, whatever's gatewalled from, you know, the company and whatnot, if you want to find people and see their feedback and or try the game yourself, you can now do so. Granted, you don't have a lot of time left, but on the upside, this game will certainly have a late pledge available at any point, so if you feel the rush, if you feel the pressure, you can go ahead and get a late pledge later. You may or may not, I don't know for sure if the price is going up right now, I didn't check that, so I don't know if the prices are the same in the late pledge or not, but there'll definitely be a late pledge in case you're unsure. So that's the Tabletop Simulator demo. And then additionally, two small add-ons they had over here. We have the Suicide, no wait, whoa, okay, this is a new one that was released just shortly. We have the Batman Ra's al Ghul, let's go ahead and cover what we have here. We have the Batman Ra's al Ghul and the League of Assassins expansion set. This is what was available before, and the Suicide Squad is available shortly. So it's going to be for €45. We have a bunch of new content for the game. Again, I don't know necessarily what this adds as far as how much is going to change up the gameplay. I haven't played the game. Obviously, thematically, people are going to want that DC content. It's cool stuff. I like Ra's al Ghul. We have Talia al Ghul. We have all the assassins, all that. Very cool stuff. What does that to the gameplay? Well, you'll have to play it and find out. Past that, we have the League of Assassins dice set for €15, and then we have the Suicide Squad Assault on Arkham Asylum expansion set for €60, and I don't know a thing about this because I only literally just saw this right now. It wasn't up here when I was researching this earlier today. We have Captain Boomerang, Katana, King Shark, Nocturna, Bronze Tiger, Peacemaker, and Thinker. All those fun little characters over here, as well as new adversaries to go through. Looks like a lot of fun content for the game. Again, gameplay-wise, what does it add? I can't really heavily speak to that, but thematically, if you want this stuff, this is what's being added to the Batman Escape from Arkham Asylum over on GameFound. Additionally, one last reminder as far as the campaign updates is we have Season 4 Sleeve Kings. This is just the last reminder because this is your last opportunity. Again, I've been shouting about Sleeve Kings for 3 years since I first found them, since I got into them. They are my go-to sleeve. No, this is not sponsored content. Yes, I do work for GameFound taking their account, but really I just like Sleeve Kings, and I think they're a great opportunity to get a ton of sleeves. I went ahead and bought 2 of the, the 100 sleeve packs for $160 to make sure I have enough sleeves to last me for the next 3 years. Basically, Sleeve Kings is something I bought when they first had their first campaign, I spent like, I don't know, $300-400 on sleeves, and since then they've lasted me for like 3+ years, and now I'm, you know, setting myself up for the next 3-4 years, because I still have sleeves from last time, honestly. It's some of the more common packs that I've gone through and I need to replenish. But that's going to be Season 4 Sleeve Kings. Last reminder to get your hands on any of these before they up the MSRP. And with that, we move into the new campaigns. There's not a ton to go over here. Not a lot of big ones either. We're going to have a few. Well, we'll get to them. Starting off with Hissy Fit over here, a cooperative card game of coordinated cat coaxing. This is going to be a cooperative game as you try to get your cat into the container or cage or whatever to bring it to the vet, all that. 988 backers, $22,000 raised. This is one in which the cards are going to be slowly getting in your way and situations are getting in your way as you try to puzzle out how to work together to bring the cat to the vet. Light, simple card game. It's going to run you over here $20 is going to run you to get a copy of the game. That's basically just Hissy Fit. Once you combine shipping and all of that stuff, this is going to be one of those games where if you want it, I do recommend going ahead and backing on the crowdfunding campaign because it's one that's not likely to have a high availability after the fact. 988 backers is not bad, by the way. It is possible that you will see some degree of retail pickup on this one, but if you do want to lock it in, I recommend getting it on crowdfunding, but it's definitely one that will not hold its value. Small box games, once you factor in the cost of shipping, they very rarely hold their value as far as if it's not a fit for you, this is not the kind of game where you'll get your money back, so back or don't back accordingly. From there we have a larger one, probably the largest campaign we have. We have Andromeda's Edge by Cardboard Alchemy. Over on GameFound, $1 million raised, 6,000 backers, 17 days left to go. This is one that might have to get a full should you back it or not. If it crosses that 10,000 backer mark, we're going to have to do it. We just have to. That's just the way it works. Those are the rules. 10,000 backers triggers a full should you back it. But past that, Andromeda's Edge is the spiritual successor to Dwellings of Eldervale. Designed by Luke Laurie, brought to you by Cardboard Alchemy. This is bringing the same gameplay theme and idea of Dwellings of Eldervale, but with a bunch of gameplay changes to the point that there might be room to own both in your collection. There might not be. That's a decision you can make on your end. Ultimately, I have to question how many versions of Zombicide I need for myself, and the answer apparently right now is 3. Black Plague, Undead or Alive, and then Marvel Zombies. So if you have Dwellings of Eldervale and Andromeda's Edge, I'm not blaming you or judging you. But that said, Andromeda's Edge, it's a game I've played a few times. I don't have full coverage on the game. I didn't actually fully cover it, but I've played this a few times. I've enjoyed it. For me, it is better than Dwellings of Eldervale, with the caveat that Dwellings of Eldervale to me was a good game, but not a great game. And Andromeda's Edge is a better game, but still not a game that's going to vie up along with Rurik or whatnot. Rurik, Blood Rage, Inish, Cyclades, all of that. Solid game system that ultimately uses Luke Laurie's classic system of worker placement, in which you place out your workers, and then you have pullback turns where you trigger multiple benefits, so you're always getting multiple stuff, either from placing or pulling back. You're getting a bunch of stuff. There's going to be a ton of tableau building in this game, a ton of ways to try to get in each other's way, to build up your presence on the board and to lock in the extra defensive bonuses. It's got some nice solid tweaks as far as balance and luck mitigation over Dwellings of Eldervale, as well as better tableau building and better upgrading. You're going to be constantly chaining these bonuses. You can see over here, you're going to be creating these bonus tiles over here and getting stronger and stronger turns as you go through the game. A lot of fun chaining and tableau building in this game. Tons of gameplay content over on Quackle, you can check that out, as well as content from a variety of other channels. As far as the gameplay over here, as far as the pledge levels, we have $189 for the Deluxe Plus add-ons over here. This is going to be giving you the base game, the base Deluxe Edition, as well as the Wooden Moons and upgrades of the current Flamekeeper's faction card, the card sleeves, the Jumbo Marbled Raider dice, the Moonard Coaster set, the Ancient Brain Raider, the 5 Neophene dice trays, the Module Expansion Pack, Astrodicus, the faction card and ship upgrade, and all miniatures washed. So $189, not a small amount of money, but that gets you all of that, and a very, very cool looking box, by the way. Then past that, we have the Standard Edition for $69, a much cheaper price point and a great way to jump into the game if you want to go ahead and, well, get that over here, but also at the same time, you know, not the same deluxe everything, although also a very cool box. They did the same thing with Dwellings of Eldervale, by the way. They had 2 cool boxes, and I wanted both of the cool boxes, and that kind of left me very upset because I wanted both of the cool boxes. Although I do think the blacker box, the Deluxe Edition, is a drop cooler. They're both pretty cool. But that's what we have, and then we have the regular Deluxe Edition without all the extras for $129 over here. And then the various extras you can get as far as, well, these are stretch goals. These are stretch goals that have been unlocked. All the various things that are slowly being unlocked over here. Modules and calendars and the Edge Bundle and Tactic cards. A bunch of stretch goals that are slowly being unlocked for the game, as well as the optional buy, all miniatures washed, the Module Expansion Pack. Many of these things being included in that Deluxe All-In. Some of these things being follow gifts or things you can get during the campaign, but you will not be able to get doing the late pledge unless you pay extra for them. So factor that in. There are reasons to back this during the campaign, as opposed to waiting to the late pledge as far as some of the things that will cost you extra. There are puzzles to solve as well. You can solve any puzzle and you'll get the Ancient Brain Mini standee over here. So the Ancient Brain Mini promotion is only during the campaign. This is one of those things I mentioned, that once you wait for late pledge, you're going to have to pay for this if you want to get your hands on it, as opposed to doing the campaign, you can solve any puzzle. And if you don't like the idea of solving puzzles, because I respect that, I'm sure you can go ahead and find any number of people or threads or places where you can go ahead and find answers to those puzzles for those who want to just skip the whole solving the puzzle and go straight to the answer. here. But that is Andromeda's Edge. Andromeda's Edge, basically spiritual successor to Dwellings of Eldervale, doing incredibly well over on GameFound, $1 million raised, 5,900 backers, and a possible should you back it video coming before we hit the 17 days end of the campaign. From there we have Mico Dojo. Mico, that's not true. We have Microbots from the same creators who brought you Mico Dojo. We have Microbots Duel and Power Up coming from Prometheus Game Labs. We have 455 backers, $11,000 raised. Microbots is basically continuing what they started with Mico Dojo, bringing you a tiny small box game. I think Mico Dojo was like $5. Microbots, I believe, is a little bit more than that, maybe $10 for it. Looks like it is £10. £10 for Microbots Duel. £18 if you want Microbots Duel and the Power Up expansion, 2 separate little tins, and this is giving you a game of, well, Microbots. You're going to have these various different bots. You're going to be trying to play cards to power them up. You're going to be trying to go engage in combat as you bluff as far as how much of your resources you're going to spend before you go through recharge turns, and how long you want to push yourself before you eventually recharge. Lots of small amount of lots of decisions baked into a small box with a lot of tactical depth. This is Microbots Duel. You can check out a bunch of content on it. Again, this is following the same general vein as Mico Dojo, although on its personal note, this one appeals to me much more visually. So I have not played this one. I did play Mico Dojo. I have not played this game system, but just the general art, even just the tin, all this stuff appeals to me significantly more as far as giving you a micro little thing. I like micro games, but they need to be the right kind of micro games. To me, I want my micro games to feel like they work properly and not like they're specifically being crammed in. So, for example, Button Shy games, I love them as micro games. Other micro games I've played and thought, no, this feels like they're trying to make it small and they didn't try to make it good instead. This does look very cool. That's going to be Microbots. In general, as far as should you back, ooh, look at those PVC bendable cards over there. But as far as should you back or should you not, in general, the same kind of conversation here. This is a cheap box with plus the cost of shipping, especially if you're not in the UK. Shipping's gonna run you like $7 on top of the game. When you're paying like £18 for it plus another £7, it's just too small to be a game that's really going to hold this value. If you want to get your hands in it, by all means, it's cheap, it's affordable, it's easy to get, but it's one that if it's not a fit for you, you likely will not be getting your money back on this one. From there we have TENTRICKS, a fun challenge for the whole game. You place your TENTRICKS pieces while avoiding the limit bar or you will be eliminated. TENTRICKS is basically a polyomino game that is probably the most similar to Tetris from any polyomino game I've seen. With 377 backers, $14,000 raised, this is basically giving you Tetris. As you grab tiles, you're going to flip over cards, which are going to reveal specific tile shapes that everyone's going to place into your board, and as you complete rows, you raise your limit bar. Because practically speaking, given the fact that it's not a video game, when you complete a row, you can't have it go magically puff. So instead, they simulate that by having the bar raised. So when you complete a row, they raise the top bar, giving you the same net effect as your bottom bar going puff, and then combine that with a bunch of ability tiles. As you place tokens down in various shapes, you're going to get various ability tiles, and you'll use those to either enhance your own board or mess with your opponents, and that's basically TENTRICKS. It's just a bunch of polyomino pieces going into your boards, a little bit of screwage, and then trying to be the last person standing before everything goes boom and falls apart around you. That's the basic game. It's a polyomino game that's similar to Tetris. We have £34 for the interneuronal I assume that's how you say that. Pledge over here, that's a reference to the fact that they kind of talk about that TENTRICKS takes place in a new form of entertainment which echoes the past. Board games have been gone and they're replaced by interneuronal games. That's just the theme over here. But effectively it's £34 for the game, €34 for the game. That's going to be TENTRICKS, plus of course the cost of shipping. As far as should you back or should you not, the short version over here, 377 backers. There's not a ton of demand for the game, and combined with the price point plus shipping, this is another one that if you want it, based on the fact that it doesn't have a ton of people backing it, this is your safest, cheapest option to get your hands in it. But on the other hand, it's one that is very unlikely to hold its value on the secondhand market. Past that, we have Fork, a food chain trick-taking game. I said that correctly. Fork is fox, owl, rabbit, and kale, and represents the fact that as you play cards, there's a specific sequence of how the food chain operates. With 312 backers, $12,900 raised, this one kind of seems a cross between a trick-taking game and a cross between, oh my gosh, what's it called? The Four Humors. The Four Humors, in a sense of there's a degree of prisoner's dilemma here, as there is a sequence of who's going to win, but if too many people go for the win, you might find that they actually lose, because there's a specific food chain at play. So you can see over here an example over here. We have the train, we have the foxes. If there's too many foxes, they all go away. If there's one fox, then you start moving down the food chain. So there's this process of being mindful of what goes out in play, but it's not purely a system of who's stronger or not stronger. Sometimes being stronger isn't enough if it means that other people are all going to go away, and you'll have to go slowly down the food chain to see what survives and what gets eaten and what's going to take in the game. So it's a combination of prisoner's dilemma and trick-taking in this little experience over here. It's going to run you $10 for Pocket Fork, $18 for the regular Box Fork. That's going to be the two versions of the game, Pocket Fork and Box. I can't say it without messing up over there. Pocket Fork and Box Fork, and then we have the Deluxe Box Fork, which is going to contain a bunch of coasters, as well as the player aid drawn by the artist. So a bunch of options as far as how you get your hands in the game in different formats over here. As far as should you back or should you not, this one in general, they'd actually run like like 19 campaigns. This is number, what is this for them? This is the 19th campaign for them. And in general, their games haven't done a great job holding their value. They have an audience, they sell, they continue to come back to Kickstarter with more games, but they haven't been, and none of them have really been smash out hits, and in general haven't done that great on the secondhand market. But same conversation as many of these, with so few people backing it. If you do want the game, this is your safest opportunity to lock in a copy as opposed to hunting it down later. Past that, we move to Minigolf Designer, the Minigolf Empire extension. This is going to be the new extension for Minigolf, bringing you new contents for the Minigolf game, which does not have a large audience, but is decently rated from the audience it does have, with 250 backers, $10,000 raised. The tricky part, as far as I can see over here, is you can only get the extension. From what I can see over here, you can't get the base game. This is literally just for the extension, and there is no option, and there is no pledge manager coming, so from what I can see over here, this is just a campaign for the expansion, and nothing else. And the expansion is going to add a few things. It's going to add a kind of a campaign sequence to the game. It's going to add some few other challenges and different things. And the basic idea of the game is you're building out and designing your own little golf course based on specific requirements from the various characters you have in play. So you can see over here an example of what a golf course will look like as you try to gather tiles and build out the golf course, trying to be mindful of the specific designer goals and the specific challenges you have in play. And now there's a way to do so while also going through a bit of a campaign sequence, as well as just more content for the game in general. That's basically the game. $17 for the game, plus of course shipping. No pledge manager on this one, so if you want this one, jump in on it now. As far as should you back it, will it hold its value? Short version is no. This is another one that if you want it, jump on it now. This is not going to have a high availability, but it's not one you're going to be getting your money back on either. It just does not a lot of demand for the game or for the expansion. Well, the expansion we don't know yet, but assuming. From there, we move on to only one more, it looks like. We have one more campaign. We have the Search for the Lost Species. 1,600 backers, $94,000 raised, 24 days to go. The Search for the Lost Species is the spiritual successor to the Search for Planet X. Just like Andromeda's Edge to Dwellings of Eldervale, we have the Search for the Lost Species to the Search for Planet X. Both of the games, by the way, in all four cases, I've played all four games, and in both cases, I think the new versions are strictly better than the old versions. The Search for the Lost Species, to me, does everything that the Search for Planet X does, but it just does it better, more thematically inclined to what I want, as well as mechanical changes that I think just improve upon the game. I have coverage of the game if you want to check it out, but the Search for the Lost Species is basically giving you all the same gameplay. It's giving you a map that's more, has you wandering around the map with different characters. It's giving you town cards. It's giving you a variety of the lost species that you're searching for. So just in all senses, it's the same game, but more. The same game, but more and better as far as I'm concerned. But as far as this over here, the Kickstarter campaign is going to be running $45 for a copy of the Search for the Lost Species. That basically guarantees that you'll get it first. And that seems to be the only reason to really get it here. Oh, by the way, I should really cover this. The Search for the Lost Species is a deduction game. It's a deduction game which you're trying to find the lost species on the planet using a bunch of deduction rules, because there are a bunch of things on the planet. There's going to be the snakes, and there's going to be the lorries, and the different animals, the cuscuses, and all these, and the toads. All these different animals on the island, they all have different rules as to how they operate. And using those logic rules, combined with the pieces of information that are slowly spoon-fed to you, as well as the actions you take in the game that are going to deduce information on the island, you eventually are able to slowly track down what's in various spots, getting points for your deductions, and eventually hopefully tracking down the lost species, where you can then go ahead and make a final prediction and hopefully win the game, or trigger the end game and have somebody else win. That can happen too. So it's a deduction game which you're basically playing through. It's app driven. You're going to have to use the app to kind of punch in that you're making a bit of a, you're checking that area, you're doing a survey for that area and that animal, and the app's going to punch out the results. So you'd have to work with an app in the common game state, which the downside is it's app driven for those who don't like that. The upside is it means there's a ton of games. This is not a game with like 12 scenarios. This is a game with near infinite scenarios. This is the Search for the Lost Species. And going back to what I was saying before, as far as should you back or should you not, it seems like the only real reason to back this, as far as I can see, is the fact that you're going to get it earlier than other people. The price point is not great. There's no real extras. The price point is not bad, but it's cheaper at retail down the road. There's no real extras, so really get this game if you just want to get your hands on it earlier. Otherwise, I'd recommend getting the game, but I'd recommend getting the game at retail. I don't really see any other reasons to get it on crowdfunding, at least as of right now. And that's what we have as far as the campaigns. Not a ton of campaigns going on, a bunch of smaller things, and then, Search for the Lost Species and Andromeda's Edge, plus a few updates to older campaigns. As far as picks of the week, picks of the week in general are going to be where I pick a game that is the most likely to hold its value, always from the new campaigns, not from the updates, as well as a campaign that is my personal interest pick of the week, the game that I am most interested in for whatever reason, either because I haven't played it and I want to, or because I have played it and I want to get it back on my table. For my value pick of the week, it's pretty easy. It's going to be Andromeda's Edge. I think Andromeda's Edge is the one that is most likely to hold its value over here. Looking at Dwellings of Eldervale, which just went ridiculously out of print very quickly and is a game that generally holds its value just fine even today. It's a game that is well sized. sought after, and if you have any of the Kickstarter versions of the game, they're in demand a lot. And I think it's going to hold true for Andromeda's Edge, which is already off to a smashing hit over here, doing tremendously well, and I think it's just a strictly better game. I think this is going to be a game that's hunted down, so by all means, my value pick of the week is definitely Andromeda's Edge. As far as my personal interest pick of the week, that one's a little tougher. There's a bunch of things that are kind of tempting me, but for me, I'm going to say The Search for the Lost Species. And I say that as someone who's not even sure if this one will stay in my collection long term. Search for Planet X is a great game that eventually left, and The Search for the Lost Species is better, and I like it a lot more, but at the same time, at the end of the day, I think Tiwanuku, previously known as Pachamama, I think is the game that I'm keeping in my collection as my preferred deduction game, and the others have slowly left because I just don't play deduction games enough. So I do like The Search for the Lost Species. I am intrigued by it. Whether or not this one makes its way into my collection, that time will tell. We'll find out. But overall, I really recommend this one as being possibly my second favorite deduction game from all the various ones I've played. Really like this one a lot. This is The Search for the Lost Species. As far as coming up next week we have a few things coming up on the radar. First of all, we have Set a Watch, Forsaken Isles, and Doomed Run. This is the third series in the Set a Watch universe from Stone. From Rock Manor Games. I was like, Stone, it's not Stone. From Rock Manor Games, Mike Nade from Rock Manor Games. And then additionally, speaking of Stone, we have Stone Saga coming from Brendan at Games, from Out of My Mind Games. Stone Saga is going to be coming to Kickstarter next week, and that should be a fun one, so keep your eyes peeled on that. And with that, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. Hope you enjoyed this video. I'm losing my train of thought. I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. Hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one. You know, here in America, we call it an elevator, but in Britain they call it a lift. I guess we're just raised differently.